All right, today we're going to talk all about pools, and we're incredibly excited to have an expert in the house. We love to open doors together to our vendors, for our clients. And so today we're going to talk all about pools. So please tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate y'all having me. My name's Will Parrish, from Memphis. Own Integrity Pool and Spa Repair. We do all maintenance, comprehensive for pretty much anything. If you already have a hole, we do not build pools, but if you already have a hole in the ground, we will do pretty much leak detection, vinyl liners, gunite renovations. That's tile, coping, plaster, pumps, motors, filters, anything to do with your pool system. We can help you with. So we do a little bit of everything. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, we are glad you're here, and I think we've talked about it, but this is one of my favorite subjects about having a house and a pool.
Oh yeah.
It's near and dear to my heart, so I look forward to talking to you and talking about some of the ins and outs and how things have changed
Absolutely.
because it's been 20 plus years since I was in the pool business, so things have changed quite a bit. But
Oh yeah.
I appreciate you being here, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess to kick things off, one of the biggest questions we get is, we get a lot of questions about pools, but chlorine versus salt water versus, I know for a while they came out and they started using a UV light and
hmm
ozone generator and
We
mineral
don't see much of
purifiers.
those.
Okay.
It's more chlorine or salt.
And we talked before about the salt and my personal hate for it, but some people really love it. I'd love to get your opinion.
My opinion is chlorine, not salt. Um, but that's a little bit of just seeing problems with salt. However, I also have the opinion of swimming in a salt pool feels better to my skin, doesn't sting your eye, like you don't run into those type of issues as much. But if you have anything metal around your pool and you have a salt pool, corrosion's going to start happening
Right.
pretty fast.
Yeah, that's what we see as well.
And then another thing with electrical, your pumps are run on electricity, so um, we see electrical problems with salt water quite a bit, and those can be hard to find and expensive because of the troubleshooting process takes time. So there's pros and cons to both. It's really a matter of opinion and where you want to spend your money and what headache you want to have.
Sure.
But if you're a homeowner, the headache can be passed to us. We're happy that we welcome those headaches because we come up with creative solutions to solve your problem and get you up and you just enjoy your pool. So that's why we're in business, and that's what we are grateful that people call us to solve those problems. So to answer your question with salt and chlorine, there's those two reasons. You find a lot of problems with the maintenance side of things with salt, but it's also really comfortable to swim in
Yeah.
salt. So,
And I
you
think,
know,
it still comes down also, I think, to the overall maintenance and water chemistry of the pool as well.
sure,
So no matter what you go with, you're still having to adjust everything else. And if you don't, you're going to have bigger problems or
100%.
maintenance issues or degradation of the substrate of the pool or
Yeah.
whatever else.
Well, that brings up a good point with a salt system on a gunite surface. So the salt generator is going to generate more calcium buildup naturally,
Right.
and you already have. Your body of water is a living body of water, just like plants and stuff on land. So you're going to already have calcium coming into your pool naturally, and then you're introducing more. So you're going to see more of those white spots forming on the bottom of the pool and on the tile line. That'll happen faster with salt. So in that regard, it can make it look like chicken pox, if you will, on
Sure.
the bottom of your pool, which is not fun to look at. It doesn't look good. So that's
Well,
another negative effect.
and you just brought up gunite. So when I was in the business, Memphis was a huge vinyl market.
hmm
And I know gunite has always been there as well, but the price differential between the two always made vinyl more attractive to people.
Sure.
From a from a longevity standpoint between vinyl and gunite, I know things have changed,
Mhm.
materials have changed, the quality of and the chemicals used to make the vinyl as well as some of the quality
Mhm.
of the gunite has changed over the years. From a resurfacing standpoint and a replacing of liner, how long do you expect a liner to last these days? And how long do you expect a gunite pool finish to last before you have to have it refinished?
And let me
Man,
throw in cost question too.
okay.
How much do they cost? And then how long does it usually take before they have to be replaced or resurfaced?
Well, both of those questions are moving targets because it depends on. So, building a gunite pool, if you build a just a simple rectangle pool, nothing fancy, it costs one thing. If you build something that's super elaborate, a lot of water
Sure.
features, lights, all the stuff, the price is going to be driven up by that. But I would say typically you're over 100 grand for a gunite pool easily for a basic one. And you can vinyl liners probably 65 ish, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah,
For a basic one, you can get elaborate with those too. You can
sure.
get kits for as fancy as you want to get with a vinyl pool as well, and water features too. So it could be over 100,000 for that as well.
Yeah, they've definitely changed a lot over the years from just a square or
Right,
rectangle in the
right.
ground. From how long do you expect a liner to last? And I know it has to do with water. Again, it goes back to water chemistry. If you don't take care of your chemistry, it's not going to last as long. So you
No,
either pay me
that's
now or pay me later.
right. I mean, that's exactly the point I was going to make. It really depends on your backyard. Do you have good drainage for your groundwater? If you don't, is the liner going to float? Water getting coming up from the ground underneath your liner. That can affect the life of the liner. And then the chemistry. If you just don't balance your pH, you are going to ruin your liner within a couple of years. Um, or if you take really good care of it, you can. I mean, we did two recently that were over 10 years old,
That's
and
fantastic.
that's a long time.
That's
Even if you,
unusual,
yes,
right?
yes. Now they were in rough shape. They probably needed it a few years before, but it did. They got a long life out of it. So it varies based on how well you take care of your pool, your backyard, the weather, um, a lot of factors.
Sure.
So it's not really a one size fits all, if you will.
I
So
get that.
I'm
And
gonna
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I would think the same as with gunite. If
yes,
water chemistry
yes.
makes a big difference.
Now I will say gunite's more durable with water chemistry. It'll last a little bit longer than a liner, but it's the same concept.
Sure.
Yes, yeah.
I'm gonna throw out rule of thumb, and if I'm totally off, that's fine because you're the expert, and we want to educate ourselves too. So rule of thumb for a liner is we typically say 5 to 7 years for replacement potentially, and for gunite maybe 8 to 10 for resurfacing. How do you feel about that?
I would say in ideal situations, you can get a little bit longer on both.
Okay,
Yeah, I would
excellent.
say 7 to 9 years on a liner
That's great.
would be, and again,
It all
this is a moving
depends.
target.
Sure.
It's hard to say, but you can definitely get that if you take
Okay.
good care of your pool.
And gunite?
Gunite would probably be 15.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Mhm.
And then the cost for replacement or resurfacing?
So a liner typically uh, around 5,000, somewhere in that ballpark, give or take, depending on what it is and what size it is. And then gunite is for to redo your plaster, and tile line is, you know, the basic. I would say do your tile and plaster at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
so that everything ages at the same rate. Um, it'll save you money in the long run. The cost of a gunite, probably 15 to 25, depending on the situation. Now we have different types of plaster you can get. Marcite is the most common. Then you have hydrazo, which is a more high-end finish that you have the ability to, if you use hydrazo, they polish it. And then say starts to get rough in 5 to 7 years, instead of resurfacing, you can drain your pool and then you can polish it again, and it's almost like a brand new pool again.
Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
That's great. How much is a polish?
probably about 7,000,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And then we hear a lot about heaters
Oh yeah.
and people wanting to extend the time they can be in the pool and it be enjoyable and not
Sure,
freeze.
sure. Yeah,
Um,
we do that at my house.
yeah, but we hear a lot of pros and cons around cost of the heater. They don't always work. We hear a lot of pros and cons both ways. We'd
hmm
love an expert's opinion on that.
So if you have a piece of equipment and you don't use it all the time, it's like it's meant to be run. So heaters are only run a certain time of year. When it's hot outside, you're not using it. But the benefits of having one from my personal perspective is great. I love having a heater. And the reason why is my kids like to swim. And so when it's a beautiful day in late March, but the water temperature is, you know, freezing still, and they want to swim, if I kick the heater on Thursday, by Saturday we're having a good time, and it's, you know, just like a summer day. So it does get you, and cost efficient for that too is I only cut it on for, you know, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, cut it off, and we swim Saturday, Sunday, and it feels great. So you cut it off, then you stop that. It doesn't really affect more than $50 a month for me personally. I
Okay.
can't speak to everybody's system because I don't know what that would look
Sure.
like for them, but it's very minimal cost to
That's
do that.
reasonable to be able to
Yeah,
swim on the weekend.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's only, you know, do it every weekend in March and April. I mean, that's a very small cost to get enjoyment out of your pool.
Hmm.
So having a heater is certainly worth. I like having a heater, and I would recommend having it. There are upfront costs that are not desirable, but some of those can be. For example, I was talking to Michael earlier about um, if you're you've got appliances in your house that are run on gas, your meter at your house is, you know, capable of a certain amount of gas, right? If adding a 250,000 BTU heater is not gonna, it exceeds that, you have to upgrade your meter. So then you have to get MLGW out and sell you a meter and have a plumber install it.
So
So
it's not
Okay.
necessarily always just the cost of what that heater is going to be. It's
no,
what it's going to
definitely
take
not.
to install it on the back end.
Right.
You've got the plumber, you've got the
hmm
gas line, you may have a meter cost. So
hmm
there's a lot more to consider there.
Absolutely. And some people don't buy, like say they built a pool and they just didn't want to spend the money on the heater right then, and they'll run a gas line as a part of the pool building process and just have it there for years down the road when they want to buy the heater.
And we see a lot of homes that have a gas line there where the pool's been there for 20 or 30 years, where the
hmm
heater was there
Right.
and now it's gone because, again, if you can't tell, I'm all about water chemistry.
Sure.
If people don't take care of their water chemistry, it heats up that eats up that exchanger really quickly.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's something that is, you know, we see that a lot, a whole lot, and
yeah,
they're like, I don't know what's wrong with it, and it's, you know, rusted from the inside, you
yeah.
know, for one reason or another, and just have to repair it and or replace it. So yeah.
Well, I think from a maintenance standpoint, I've always been told that in the beginning of the year, the best thing you can do is get your water perfect. Don't just spend a little bit of money and just get it within the bare minimum range. You want to get your water chemistry perfect. Is that true? Because I was told
Oh
that if
yeah.
you do that, it helps you throughout the rest of the year. You're not going to spend, you may spend more money in the beginning, but you'll probably spend less throughout the whole
Right.
year.
Well, it's like anything. If you prepare on the front end, then it makes the whole process better, it goes
Sure.
smoother, whatever. It's the same thing here. Yes, I would totally agree that having everything just right going into swim season is going to set you up for success. If you halfway do it, you're going to have it, you're playing catch up the whole summer.
Yeah.
And it actually is going to cost you more money when in June your pool turns green because it never was balanced right, and then you've got to spend a lot to get it green back to clean, and so you're going to spend more money on chemicals doing
And
it
it
that way.
probably turns green the week before 4th of July, right?
Oh, buddy, does it?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's and
Yeah.
everybody wants their pool for Fourth of
that's right.
July. So I would recommend to get it going several weeks before.
That's right. Don't wait until the very last
No,
second, or the 2 days before you've got a
right,
party.
right. And you know, it's interesting for our business after the Fourth of July, business slows down because everybody's got their pool ready. It's like we rush to
Sure,
that date,
I have no doubt.
and
That's funny.
very busy up until that point. So
I
yeah.
have.
And the other thing it sounds like too, from what you said, and I hadn't thought about this before, but if you aren't taking care of the chemistry on the front end, you're also not only damaging the water and it's not going to be ready for you to use, but you're damaging the substrate. So whether it's a liner or gunite
Hmm.
that's holding the water in,
And your equipment
and
and
your
the
equipment,
water
which
running
is
through the heaters.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's another problem.
Yeah, and those are costs that people don't think about because it doesn't affect right now,
Hmm.
but it will affect you down the road. So,
And a bigger price tag.
and
oh yeah,
it's like
yep,
anything else on your home, and not to go down a rabbit hole, but if you don't paint your home on a regular basis, you're going to have wood rot.
absolutely.
You have to take care of your stuff,
Yeah.
and you have to do regular maintenance. Talking about regular maintenance, a lot of people may take their water and get it tested every month or 2 months, or when they start to see cloudy
Sure.
water. I personally think getting it tested on a regular basis, if you're going to do it yourself,
Yeah.
or better yet, hire someone like you who's going to come in on a weekly
Hmm.
basis, clean your pool, test your chemicals, add your chemicals, your water.
Yeah.
If you do that,
We
you're,
call that the easy button.
it is
Getting us to do
absolutely.
it, that's you hitting the easy button. Um, but if you're doing it yourself, like you said, get it prepared on the front end. And if you have it prepared on the front end and you run into problems and you call us, it's much cheaper for us to come out and we can give you we offer pool school. So say you want to take care of your pool yourself, but you don't know anything about swimming pools, we'll come out and give you a list of things to do every week. And if you stay on top of that,
I
it's
love
it's
that.
it's more cost effective for you to take care of your pool yourself. However, some people just don't want to do it.
Hmm.
And that's fine.
Hmm.
But pay somebody else to come in and take care of it for
Well,
sure.
two things on that. First of all, I love the idea of pool school because for years I've been the pool school guy.
Right.
Everybody calls me to get advice, and I love giving advice, but
Sure.
things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
I, I'm older, 20 years, technology has changed drastically.
Oh yeah.
So call the professional, get the pool school pro over here to do it for you. Don't, not
So
me.
the things you just brought up a good point of things are ever evolving and changing. Smart systems for these pools where everything is controlled on an app on your phone, that's huge right now.
Sure.
And smart systems have been a thing for a while, but they're always upgrading the technology, making it better. And so we've been doing a lot of upgrades on smart systems. And really, it's great to be able to control. Hey, I want to turn my pump off at night to save money. You just get on your phone and you turn it off, and then you turn it on in the morning, and
It's pretty nice.
yeah, it's very convenient. But it does have an upfront cost to get it all set up, but it's nice to have. So there's plenty of
Absolutely.
things that upgrades on those are a lot of what we
They're
do.
nice, and we
Hmm.
love it from a resale perspective.
Hmm.
It's a great feature to tout, but also for the seller standpoint, if they want to turn their waterfall on right before a showing, the
Right.
pool's looking fantastic. You're not running it all
Absolutely.
day long.
Smart systems. You mentioned smart systems and
Hmm.
the ease of use. Help us understand general costs for that.
So that's you have to have the electrical capacity at your pool system because you want it at the pool system. Um, and so if you have the 240 volts or 100 120 whatever it's going to be run on, if you have enough a breaker there that's enough to support it, then it's a little bit less. However, just getting the smart system set up, we did one last week, and it was just over $5,000 to do the whole thing,
Okay.
and
Okay.
that's replacing the smart board. Actually, it was an upgrade, so It
Okay.
might be a little bit over that.
Okay.
And that takes the place of the old time clocks and all that
Hmm.
other stuff. It's
Oh yeah,
everything. It moves your
everything.
valves if you have
Yep. If
valves.
you have smart valves, it will, you can turn them and you can set them to, you know, only open halfway. If it's a water feature, you don't want it shooting way out, that
Right.
kind of thing. You can control all that
That's
from your
incredible.
phone.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
That
it's
is amazing.
Question for you on kind of you were talking about things changing and we've talked about how earlier we talked about how the pumps have changed, how
hmm
cleaners have changed. You know,
yep,
back in my day it was a pool pump and then you had a booster
booster
pump for
pump.
your
Yep.
cleaner. And now everybody's moving to the robots. So your
hmm
robots are more expensive, but
Yeah.
they you don't have the second pump, you have less
Right.
piping, you're using less electricity. The pumps are becoming more efficient.
Yeah.
So in the past I would say if you had those two pumps, it's about $150 a month in utility costs when you turn
Sure.
them both on. I'm sure it's gone down now because of those two
Well, so
things.
you're still using a lot of those pumps that you don't need a booster pump for, and you don't plug it into the wall and have it snaking around the pool. You still have to plug it into an outlet
Okay.
and drop it in, or they have some now that have batteries. Um, we don't have very many of those out with the customers that we have, but they do have those. That's
Okay.
pretty new. And yeah, it's really a matter, and we have a lot of booster pumps still. It's really a matter of okay, you have a cost of your Polaris, and then you have a cost of your booster pump, and then or you can spend about the same price for a cleaner you just drop over the side and plug into the wall. The difference is you won't have to replace the booster pump whenever it goes out. So it'll save you money there, but you're going to spend, and then your cleaner is going to cost you a little bit more. So it's really six one way, half a dozen another on that. But I would say that more people are going to the getting away from the booster pump.
Okay.
That's what I see. If something goes out, they'll usually buy a pump, or excuse me, not a pump, a new cleaner.
And this is something I don't know the answer to. I'm curious. The Polarises, a lot of people would just leave them in the pool all the time until there
Hmm.
was a party or they were going
Yeah.
to have a lot of people. They pull them out. Do you do the same thing with these robots, or do you need to pull them out on a regular
You
basis?
can do the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just leave them running all the time. Typically, I would say people don't do
Okay.
that. They may leave them in the pool and just unplug it,
Okay.
and so it's not running around. But yeah, not we don't.
No harm either way.
No, no harm either way. It's made to be in the pool,
Hmm.
so it doesn't harm it.
Okay.
Mm.
Real quick, back to heaters. Cost of just the heater. I know there are a lot of
Just
other
the heater,
pieces.
not counting the plumber and upgrading
Right.
your meter and all that. For us to go do it, I'd say about $4,500,
Okay.
depending on the size, the BTU that you need for the size of your pool. It varies, 3,500 up to 6,500. I
Okay.
mean, it just depends.
Okay.
But yeah.
Since we're talking costs, let's talk about replacement equipment because
Mhm.
equipment does go bad. Your
Yeah,
filters wear out over
100%.
time. Your pumps wear out over time. Rough idea. I know the pumps are now fancier. Again,
Hmm.
they used to just be you'd go pick out a
Yeah,
you'd have your one horse, one and a half, two horse, whatever you needed for your pool. Now it's a variable speed. There's smart
sure.
pumps.
Yeah.
What's the cost on something like that? To
A smart pump, generally, I mean, they're all usually close to
okay,
$2,000. Uh, Different brands, you're going to vary a couple $100 one
sure,
way or the other. I I really like the Hayward pumps.
okay. They've
That's
been
just
around a long time.
that's just my preference. Other people like Pentair. I mean, there's other ones out there. That's just the one I have the least trouble, and people call them with problems after.
Okay,
So
That's a big
and
deal.
that
then
is a big deal. I mean, because ultimately, I'm trying to provide a service for the customer to not have to call me as much,
sure,
Hmm.
because that serves our customer the best. So, and then another thing on the pump quality is not what it used to be. And you were telling me about your pump, and you've had it for 20 years. You're not going to get the same quality anymore, unfortunately, for one reason or another. Um, so if you do have an old pump and you're thinking, hey, maybe I'll upgrade, and you've had it for a really long time, maybe just wait till it quits. If you want, unless you just have the excess cash and you just want to do it, and it's not a big deal. But if you're thinking about being cost conscious, then that's something you would want to consider.
Okay.
So,
Filters. Do you have a preference on? I know back in my day, again, I keep going back. We had sand, DE or diatomaceous earth,
hmm
or mod media, which are basically cartridge filters.
right, right.
Is it still the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Not. We don't have very many DE filters. Generally, that I think we have one weekly service customer that has one,
Okay.
and that the rest are cartridge or sand.
They were never big sellers in my day either.
Right.
It was always sand, and
Yeah.
then occasionally you'd sell one, but then really when mod media or cartridges came out,
Sure.
they kind of took over for a while.
Yeah. They both work well. My preference is sand. But again, that's just my preference. Other people might say the opposite. So
We'll agree to disagree because I'm a cartridge guy.
sure, sure. Well, no, and that
He's
and
the
see,
expert.
But I'm not working on them
but
every day
again,
either.
that is just my preference.
Sure.
I think they both work and do their job the way. If you clean your cartridges when they need it, so if you notice your pressure start building,
Right.
it's time to clean it. Typically, in a good backyard, once a quarter is usually it. And then if you have a really nasty backyard, maybe once a month. And then with the sand filter, you backwash it, once a week when you're dosing your chemicals. And if you do that consistently and you have a pretty good backyard with not a lot of debris, every 5 years I would do a sand change, and then call us to come out. We'll get the sand out, put new sand in, and you'll be good to go for another 5.
And I was being silly. The reason why I said that is because I agree with you. Sand for most people is the better way to go because it's easier to maintain, it's easier to clean, it's easier to
Sure.
backwash. Whereas a cartridge filter, you have to take it apart
Yeah.
to clean it.
It's a hassle.
I went with oversized and I doubled I have two filters on my pool.
So
So
you're very efficient
I
then.
clean it at
Yeah.
the end of the season, and I mean I don't have to clean it every month, so it's
Right.
very efficient. It does a great job, and it's very maintenance free for me.
But
Sure.
that's unusual. I
It is
think.
unusual, so I was being a little silly there.
Yeah, no, but that's a very good point. It depends on how much you want to have to mess with it.
Sure,
If you're not if you're taking care of your pool and you're doing it to save a little money and you really don't like doing maintenance things, a sand filter would be a better way to go
sure.
in that. But if you don't mind, opening it up, getting the cartridges out, getting a pressure washer or water hose and cleaning it up and putting them back together, then they both work fine.
Sure.
They both do a good job. So just it's a preference thing, really. Chevy or Ford,
That's right.
it's kind of the same in my opinion. So you know, prices just keep doing that,
Yeah.
and
Well,
I don't see that changing anytime
well, we
soon.
talked
No.
about chlorine. Chlorine
That's
when
not gonna go
BioLab
back
had
down.
their fire a few years ago and COVID hit all
You
at the same
couldn't
time.
find granular
No,
shock anywhere.
Well, the supply was so low at that point.
We couldn't
Prices
get it.
went through the roof.
You couldn't get it at the distributors.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean we used to sell a 100 pound
Bucket,
barrel
yeah.
for $100. That was the going rate, $100 for 100 pounds.
Man, if we could just
Wow.
go back to that.
I know.
that'd be
Good
great.
old
And I had
days.
no
Yeah.
idea it's $100 to go buy what 25 pounds now.
It's
Maybe.
just over 100.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just over.
so it's quadrupled in the last 5 years.
Mhm. It's really, and people also have to consider when they're buying a house from y'all's perspective, you have to understand that a pool is a luxury,
That's right.
regardless of what type of house. Like, say it may not be a huge mansion, but it has a pool. It's still a luxury item. You're gonna have to spend money on this luxury item. You just invested into a house that has one, so it does have costs that are associated with it, and they keep going up. So.
Yeah.
Well, and talking about cost, I know you do a lot of weekly services
Mhm.
for people. What does that typically run? Is it a cost plus, meaning it's a certain fee to come out every week, and then
Yes.
depending on chemical usage or what
Mhm.
needs to be done, there's a fee on top of that?
Yes. So we charge typically $79 a week
Okay.
for the service. And if your pool is a glorified hot tub size pool, it's less. And if it's huge, it's a little more. So
Okay.
but around the $80 range per week.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it may sound to some people like that's expensive. However, if you take on the responsibility, I'm going to take care of this, and then you don't do it, you have to spend a lot of money getting us to come out green to clean. Man, my motor burn up because I didn't empty my baskets
Or your
and
$4,000 or $6,000 heater burned up or
yep,
exchanger
yeah.
rusted out. Absolutely.
So you have to consider those things. Are you wanting to pay a little bit, each month, or do you want to pay a lot twice a year? It's just how do you want to spend your money?
Or take that on from a time perspective because
Right,
you're
right.
taking a sample of your water, you're going to
Mhm.
the pool store, you're getting the chemicals, you're
Right.
bringing them back, you're doing all of that.
You're
So there's
brushing your
that
pool,
time.
you're cleaning out
Yeah,
Mhm.
your skimmer baskets. To your point, it's a time thing,
it
Right.
really
as
is.
well as a water quality and a
Sure.
lifestyle quality as
Sure.
well.
That's right.
Well, and you got to consider what is your time worth as a homeowner?
Yeah.
Like, is my time going to be better spent, cleaning my pool, or is it going to be better spent selling houses?
Yeah.
In y'all's case,
Or
Yeah. Or playing with the kids.
right,
enjoying the
Or
pool
right,
with your
enjoying the
family.
pool. That's right.
100%. Yep,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you want to be able to have your friends over or do you want to be working on your pool?
right.
Exactly.
And we run into that a lot with weekly service customers that they want to save some money and do it themselves, and they take it on. It's like, okay, that's fine, and they call us back 2 months later. Their pool's green, and we have to go clean up the mess,
Yeah.
and they didn't save any money.
Yeah.
Beyond the $80, what can an average homeowner with a pool budget for chemicals throughout that summer season? And I'm just referring to the summer season, not a longer.
That's a tough one to answer, um, because it really depends on your yard. How much sunlight do you have? Are you
Mm,
shaded? Because that's going to affect how much chlorine, if you have a salt pool, how much is generated, how much chlorine you have to add, how many tabs. I mean, it's going to affect. So it's really hard to say, but if you have a really good backyard, I would say, 100 pounds of shock will last you all year
okay.
if you have a really good backyard.
And that's how much?
I don't know what it would be retail. We charge, I think it's $5 a pound for it.
Okay.
So
Okay. Got
there
it.
you go.
The only other question that we wanted to talk through too is resale value. So a lot of times we hear, oh, the house has a pool, so it's got to be worth a lot more money. And from our perspective, that's not always the case because if you haven't taken care of your pool, you haven't taken care of the decking and all of the things around the pool, some people see it as an eyesore and
Hmm.
not as a positive.
Sure.
So we don't always say that. So I'm curious from your perspective on resale value, do you see any details or anything you can share from that perspective?
So I don't think it would add having a pool at a house when you're selling it. I think you have to look at it as, do we want this? Would our family enjoy it? And that's the value that I think you're going to get. If you're I don't think you're gonna upsell the house just because it has a pool, and it may be like you said, if it's an eyesore, and oh, we've already got to get the plaster redone as soon as we move in. It may be a negative.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on the situation
Okay.
on that. And I
And
think y'all would know more about from a buyer and seller perspective of how that actually looks.
that's a great point. So on resale, I think a lot of times people think if they put $100,000 or $150,000 gunite pool into the backyard, that their house goes up 100 or $150,000 in value.
I
Can
wish
you?
it did.
Me too. I wish. Can you? Do you mind talking about that and sharing
Yeah,
what that really does in the way of comparable sales, comps, and how appraisers might look at it, or how the value of the house might be shown?
I mean, we talk to appraisers all the time about the value of a pool, and again, they have to work within their parameters, but it depends from client to client. You
Hmm.
may have one buyer who truly sees the value
Right.
of that pool because they
Mm-hmm.
want one for their family,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't want to spend $150,000 to put a gunite pool in, but they don't mind paying an extra $60,000 or $80,000 for the value of
Right.
the house to already have it there.
Right.
But then we have lots of buyers who say, I don't want a pool. I don't want
Right.
the headache. I don't want the maintenance. I don't want it. So you're not going to get any value from that pool.
Right.
We always tell people when you put a pool in, think of it as buying an RV, think of it as a European vacation. It is an investment
boat.
into a boat.
Yes,
Absolutely.
a boat.
You don't think
Mhm.
you're going to go buy a boat and not spend any more money.
Right, right.
And you're certainly not like a car. You're not going to buy a boat for $100,000 and then sell it tomorrow for $100,000.
Correct.
Same thing for the pool.
Depreciation
Mhm.
is the day you take ownership, it starts to depreciate.
Yeah, I mean, a pool is, for me personally at my house, it's to have time with my family. And we have so many good memories of swimming and having fun, having family and friends over. That's what you're buying.
That's
That's
right.
what you're getting. And when you buy a house with a pool, you're getting an experience that you can enjoy your loved ones.
That's right.
And I think that's the best selling point.
Mhm.
It was for me, and
Us
it
too.
still is.
Absolutely.
I have other customers that don't have that same opinion. They just don't like them. They wish they didn't have a pool, but they're just not made to have a pool.
That's right.
You know that, and they don't see the value in quality family time around a swimming pool. So
You're buying a
an
lifestyle, an
experience, yeah,
experience. Yes, absolutely.
I
But at
think
the end
that's
of
a
the
great
day,
point.
you are going to get some value because in our area, people do tend to more people, especially with families
hmm
or younger that want to have people over, they do see a value in a pool.
Especially
right,
with our weather too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
yeah, it
hot
gets
and humid,
really
and
hot.
yeah, it's nice to come home to a pool in August
hmm
and July. Um, the always tell people if they're wanting to put in a pool, don't ever think you're going to get 100% back.
Right,
Some of that money you
that
just have
makes
to put
sense.
out that keep in the back of your head. You're spending that for those memories,
Yep.
for that lifestyle, for your family, just like you would if you were to go spend 20 or $30,000 to take your whole family to for 2 weeks to Europe.
Yep.
Well, instead of that 2 week trip, you've got an entire summer for how
Mhm.
many years you're going to be in that house
Right.
full of memories. What is that worth?
Right. And
Exactly.
it's hard to put a price tag
It
on
is
that.
hard,
It is.
You know,
absolutely.
you can't get those days back, and you can only reflect on it, and it's fond memories for most
That's right.
everybody that I know. You
That's
know.
right.
Well, and a lot of the pool builders, they competition is competition, but really at the end of the day, their competition is more travel agents, RV sales, and boat sales,
Yeah.
because that's who
Absolutely.
they're competing against for that life experience, that
Yep.
lifestyle versus each other selling a pool to
That's a great point.
somebody.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think that a lot of times people my age grew up taking care of their pool. They're like, I don't want to deal with that. Well,
Right.
when I was a kid, you didn't have a lot of the stuff, especially, I
Sure.
mean, you didn't have a lot of Polarises. People were out
Right.
there doing all that manual labor.
Yeah.
So technology has changed. It's not as difficult to take care of a pool as it was 50 years ago.
Right.
And so some people have this misconception that it's just going to take so much time. Well,
Yeah.
they can hire someone else to take care of it, which I highly recommend.
Yeah. No,
Which we
Or
do.
if they,
we would be happy to,
yeah,
but
Yeah.
so it's a lifestyle decision
Mhm.
that they have to make. It does add some value if it makes sense for that person, but it adds zero value to someone who doesn't want a pool.
That's
Right.
right.
Well, so if you think about it, like you said earlier, if you get your pool chemistry perfect on the front end, and then you want to take care of your pool, if you stay on top of it, it does not take more than an hour a week, probably.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
if you in 10, 15 minutes a day, just go out, skim the leaves off of it, empty your baskets, just see, be there, doing it consistently will save you a lot of headache. And it doesn't take as much time. If you wait and you do it once a month, it's a project,
It is a
you know.
project.
And a
So
pain.
yeah, it just is. Are you staying on top of it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is really how you avoid it being time consuming.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want to take up your whole day. I had a couple of other things I just wanted to touch on. Closing down and opening up pools. You
hmm
guys do that as well. It's a service you provide.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure you sell the covers as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, Preference on covers, safety versus the old water bag type.
I would prefer a safety cover any day. They're much more expensive. I mean, you can get a tarp and water bags for a couple $100.
Sure.
But a safety cover can be anywhere from 3 to 6,000 bucks, depending on the size, the shape, the you know water features that you have to put anchors in
Sure.
instead of being on the deck, that kind of thing. So, but as far as like a resale value point, if somebody has a pool and they already own a safety cover,
Mhm.
that's a big expense that they don't have to spend. So
Mhm.
that's something that you could,
Agree.
you know, say to the potential buyers, like, look, this is set up for success, and this is a really good cover, so you can close it down. So, safety covers are
The way
the
to go.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
After
I,
experiencing both, I totally agree.
yeah. Well, what the problem you have is any kind of if you have a solid safety cover, you have a pump on it. If you have a tarp, you have a pump on it. And if it rains like it did a couple last week, it's gonna go. Water
What a
bags are gonna
mess.
go into the pool.
that's right.
The cover's gonna be, then it's just gonna be a mess.
And then
So,
if you
Safety
didn't
cover
keep the
season.
leaves off of it, all those leaves are now
yeah,
in the
they're in the
pool.
pool. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, we talked about maintenance a little bit. We talked about the water chemistry. We talked about the equipment maintenance. What we didn't talk about was deck maintenance. So, from my perspective, going and showing houses, a lot of times we see where brick coping is popped off or is raised above the deck or the deck is cracked really bad. And typically, when we see that, we see where the caulking, the self leveling
hmm
caulk that they put
yeah,
in between the concrete and the coping,
hmm
has never been replaced. And so, water gets in there,
hmm
we get freezing temperatures in Memphis, that's going to pop a deck or pop that brick every single time.
hmm
So, it's not just maintenance of the water, you have to take care of the whole pool.
absolutely.
You guys, I'm sure, offer that service where
Oh yeah, we do a lot of caulk,
yeah,
a whole lot, because people don't think about it, like you say, and then you show up and you're like, you're gonna have freeze damage and you're gonna run into the coping popping off and that kind of thing. So it is important to because your deck, your concrete deck, and your coping are separate. Your coping is a part of your pool, but that caulk is to have that gap so that the pool can move and the deck can move separately.
right.
And so it's to help prevent the cracking and stuff like that. So if you have them all pushed up together, it'll have a tendency to crack more. So yeah, we those are things that you need to look out for because they can cost you a lot if you don't. The caulk is, $1,000, a little over $1,000 for us to come do a normal, 20 by 40 or whatever size pool, um, and it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, but it's gonna save you money with replacing a concrete deck, replacing your coping. It's gonna cost more.
Which is
So
gonna be
Sure.
many, many thousands of dollars,
yeah,
not just a
yeah,
thousand.
Yeah.
it definitely will be.
Yeah.
Do y'all have experience with pool builders?
We do.
Who would y'all, from your perspective, who would y'all say?
There are a lot of great ones.
Yeah,
Memphis is lucky. We've always had a very robust swimming pool industry for
yeah,
years. Most of them all started off as firemen and police officers
yeah,
back in the day, and then that kind of evolved, and now obviously everybody's doing it full time. There's so many new ones. We certainly give us a call, and we're happy to recommend quite a few different
We have
companies.
quite the list for
Yep,
vendors
we do.
that are proven and vetted.
And some of
yeah,
them are newer and younger, kind of like you, and
yeah.
some of them have been around for generations
Right.
and build amazing pools, and their families have continued that experience and that level of service.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on is having vendors for anything a client might need.
Right.
So building a pool, maintaining a pool, all of those things, because especially pools, very complex,
Right.
a lot of details to try to
Oh
figure
yeah.
out and to manage and balance.
Well,
So,
and for integrity as a company, my goal is to give you all your options. We have a problem. These are options that we can fix it. This is the best option. But give them options and tell them everything that's available so that the customer can make their own decision on what they want to do and when they want to do it and how they want to handle it.
That's fantastic.
we love that.
You might find other people that are doing it in a different way that they're just trying to make a dollar. And I can't sleep at night. Our name is Integrity Pool and Spa for a reason, and I just want to be able to sleep well at night, and that's the value that we bring when we show up to your house.
That is
Exactly.
We're
fantastic.
giving you that level of service. So
And that's why we invited you for this podcast today, because that's right in line with our culture too. It's guiding, it's educating,
right,
it's giving options, opening doors, and then letting the client, the homeowner, make their choice, their
100%.
decisions for their
Could
family.
not agree more. Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for your time and
Yeah,
information.
absolutely.
We
Thank y'all
really
for having
appreciate.
me.
Oh
I've
gosh,
Yes,
enjoyed it.
we
thank you,
appreciate
Will.
all the information and your time for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
please give him a call. His information will be on this. Fantastic company, fantastic job, and they're taking care of our pool. So
yeah, we highly recommend Integrity and Will Parrish.